The starfield ahead shimmered as the void rippled and parted. From the tear in space, a shape emerged, vast, deliberate, and utterly alien to the gathered fleets. The Soul's aegis was not sleek like the vessels of the Galactic Concord, nor did it bristle with visible weapons in the way of frontier raiders. Instead, it carried the quiet weight of something built with patience and purpose. Its matte alloy hull reflected the light of the Concord capital's twin suns in muted tones, broken only by the faint blue glow of its massive engines. Captain Elena Vance stood on the forward bridge, hands clasped behind her back, watching the planet grow in the view screen. It was the first time any human ship had entered Concord space, and she was acutely aware of the audience. Dozens of alien fleets had moved into high orbit, their formation precise, but their posture tense. She could almost feel their scanning, beams raking across the Aegis hull, trying to read its armor composition, its power output, and perhaps even its intent. "Wideband transmission open," her comm officer announced, voice steady despite the tension. Elena stepped forward. Her voice, calm but firm, carried across every ship within range. "To the leadership of the Galactic Concord, I am Captain Elena Vance of the United Terran Fleet. We come in peace, bearing goodwill and the hope of mutual understanding. Her." Words were translated into dozens of languages, reaching alien minds that had never before heard a human voice. The bridge remained silent for several seconds after the broadcast ended, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. From the observation deck of the Concord flagship Illuminar, Counselor Thaleen of the Arvan species watched the human vessel through the station's panoramic glass. Even from this distance, the Aegis's proportions were staggering. Over 4 kilometers in length, with a central spinal structure that hinted at hidden capabilities. No Concord record spoke of humanity as a major power. In fact, the Council archives listed them only as a minor emerging race on the far edge of explored space. Yet here they were, arriving not in a diplomatic shuttle, but in something that could, in theory, outmass any warship in Concord history. Messages began flooding the Concord's secure channels. Some delegates urged an immediate blockade, others called for an open welcome. But the most common sentiment was one of shock, not just at the scale of the human ship, but at the confidence it projected without aggression. Elena knew what they were thinking. To many of these civilizations, power on this scale was either a threat or a bargaining chip. But the Aegis had been born of a different philosophy, not to conquer, but to protect. Humanity's history was filled with near disasters, from asteroid impacts to interplanetary wars. The Titan class had been built so that no such crisis would ever again threaten human survival. On the bridge, the navigation officer reported, "Station keeping achieved. All systems stable." Elena gave a small nod. "Maintain current position. Let them decide the next step." Across the Concord capital world, citizens gathered in plazas and public halls to see the live transmission. The Soul's aegis filled entire screens, its sheer size making even the planet's orbital rings look fragile by comparison. Conversations whispered in 100 tongues, some in awe, others in fear. Back aboard the Illuminar, Counselor Thaleen spoke to the gathered delegates. "They arrive without escort, without demands, and without haste. This is no invasion, but it is no small gesture either. We must meet them if only to understand." The vote to send a diplomatic envoy passed in minutes. Soon, a shuttle of sleek, silver hull was detaching from the Illuminar, its course set toward the Aegis. Elena watched the shuttle approach on the main display. She exhaled slowly, knowing that the next few hours could shape centuries of relations. Around her, the crew worked with quiet precision, their training evident in every movement. In the black void between stars, 2 civilizations were about to speak for the first time, one ancient and vast, the other new, yet carrying the weight of a ship that made the galaxy stand still. The silver-hulled shuttle approached the Soul's aegis like a small bird nearing a mountain. Its polished form glinted in the light of the capital world's suns, dwarfed completely by the human warship's silhouette. Within its cabin, Counselor Thaleen and 3 accompanying delegates sat in quiet observation, their eyes darting between the external views and the soft displays showing the Aegis energy readings. Power signature, unreadable, muttered one of the aides, his crest feathers twitching in uncertainty. It's as if their reactor output is masked. Thaleen's gaze stayed fixed on the looming shape ahead. Or they have power to spare and wish to reveal only a fraction of it. The shuttle slowed, aligning with a yawning docking bay that extended from the Aegis port side. As the entrance swallowed them, the artificial lights within revealed an organized symmetry. Rows of personnel in dark navy uniforms stood at attention, their faces calm, their postures exact. No weapons were visible, but the discipline in their stance suggested readiness nonetheless. Captain Elena Vance stood at the center of the receiving line, her uniform crisp, the United Terran Fleet insignia glinting under the bay lights. When the shuttle's ramp lowered, she stepped forward, offering an open-handed gesture. "Counselor Thaleen," she said evenly, "welcome aboard the Soul's Aegis." The counselor inclined his head slightly. "Captain Vance, your vessel is impressive. It was designed to endure," Elena replied, choosing her words with care. "In our history, endurance has often meant survival." They moved together through the Aegis's wide corridors, the walls lined with subtle holographic displays showing planetary systems, star charts, and strategic overviews. Unlike many warships, there was little in the way of ornamentation. The Battezio space was functional yet quietly elegant, the kind of design that revealed confidence without boasting. The group entered a conference chamber with a panoramic viewport. From here, the capital planet floated below, its blue oceans and vast land masses, framed by the delicate curve of its orbital rings. Servomechs moved silently in the background, setting refreshments that were carefully chosen to be safe across a range of species. Thaleen settled into his seat opposite Elena. The Concord was not expecting such a presence for a first meeting. "I imagine not," Elena said. "But the Aegis represents more than a vessel. It carries our promise that we will stand against any threat, whether to our own worlds or to the galaxy at large." The delegates exchanged brief glances. To them, such a declaration from a new species was unusual. Most young civilizations sought protection from the Concord, not to offer it. One of the other delegates, a tall, willowy being with translucent skin, leaned forward. "Your records, what little we have, show your people have never fought an interstellar war. Yet you bring a ship that could match the Concord's largest defense platforms." "That's true," Elena said without hesitation. "We have not fought among the stars, but we've faced enough trials on our own worlds to know what could come. We believe in preparing before the storm arrives." The words landed with quiet weight. Thaleen studied her for a long moment, sensing both sincerity and a certain guardedness. "And why come now? Why reveal yourselves to the Concord at this moment?" "Because," Elena said, her eyes steady on his, "we've learned of the Void Rift at the edge of your territory, and we believe your projections of what's emerging from it are incomplete." A ripple of unease passed through the alien delegates. The Void Rift was classified at the highest levels. Only the Concord's Strategic Council and a handful of intelligence branches were aware of its recent activity. "How could you know this?" Thaleen asked quietly. Elena leaned back slightly. "We listen, we watch, and when danger grows, we don't wait to be asked for help." For several heartbeats, the chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of the ship's systems. Thaleen realized then that the Aegis was not simply here to impress or to establish diplomatic ties. The humans had come with intent, with knowledge that suggested either advanced intelligence networks or capabilities the Concorde had not yet imagined. In the docking bay below, the shuttle's crew watched the Aegis's personnel go about their tasks. Every movement was precise, every system humming without strain. And somewhere deep within the warship, massive reactors pulsed with restrained energy, as if waiting for a moment not yet arrived. Far above the planet, dozens of alien fleets kept their distance, their captains unsure whether they were witnessing the opening of an alliance or the first move in something far larger. The conference chamber aboard the Sol's Aegis was quiet, except for the low hum of its environmental systems. The vast window framed the world below, but none of the gathered delegates were looking at it now. Every eye, alien and human, was on Captain Elena Vance. Counselor Thaline's voice was careful, but carried a note of challenge. The Void Rift is a classified matter. Even within the Concorde, only a fraction know its true nature. Your awareness of it raises questions. Elena met his gaze without hesitation. Questions deserve answers, but some must wait until trust is earned. The translucent-skinned delegate, Sivan, leaned forward. You speak as if you already know what's coming through it. Elena glanced to her right, where Commander Raj Patel tapped a control on the tabletop. A holographic display shimmered into view, revealing the swirling, jagged tear of the rift, its edges glowing with an unnatural light. The recording zoomed closer, and faint shapes could be seen moving in the dark beyond, a suggestion of massive, unfamiliar forms. This, Patel said evenly, was captured by one of our deep-range probes 12 standard days ago. It was operating well outside conquered territory in a location we believe is a mirrored extension of your rift. Thaline's head tilted slightly, his species equivalent of surprise. Mirrored extension? Patel nodded. Our data suggests the rift is not a singular wound in space, but a paired phenomenon. What emerges from one may influence the other and vice versa. Energy patterns are consistent between both sites. Savan's voice was quiet. This is not in our own models. Elena clasped her hands together. We've been tracking anomalies of this type for decades. The rift you've seen is only one side of something far more dangerous. If our calculations are correct, both ends will destabilize within 1 standard year. The event will be catastrophic. The room fell into a contemplative silence. You understand, Thaline said after a pause, that the Conquered might see this as an attempt to gain influence. Arriving in such a ship, with such data, it could be viewed as calculated leverage. It could, Elena admitted, but the truth is simpler. We don't have time for politics. The storm is coming whether we're ready or not. From the corner of the room, Lieutenant Mara Kane activated another display. This time, a projection of the Sol's Aegis appeared, its internal structure revealed layer by layer. Unlike most Concorde warships, which were compartmentalized with redundancy in mind, the Aegis was built with vast integrated power conduits, allowing it to shift energy output to any system in moments. Shielding arrays were nested with weapon hardpoints, creating a dynamic defense-offense interchange that no known fleet design matched. This is why we built the Aegis, Elena said quietly. It's not a symbol. It's a tool, a means to hold the line if the rift breaks fully open. Thaline studied the projection, noting details even the humans likely meant to keep subtle. There were power nodes with readings beyond Concorde benchmarks, and a core configuration he could not identify. Whatever drove this vessel was beyond their current catalogs. Finally, the counselor leaned back. If what you say is true, Concorde will have to reconsider its priorities, but it will not be easy to convince them. Fear makes councils cautious, not bold. That's why we're here, Elena said. Not just to warn you, but to offer partnership. Humanity does, Not seek to command, only to stand beside you when the time comes. There was a faint note of conviction in her tone that Thaleen found himself unwilling to dismiss. Through the viewport, the planet's defense fleet hung like silver ornaments against the stars, their weapons quiet, but their targeting arrays locked on the Aegis. The standoff had not changed, yet, but in that room, something had shifted. The alien delegates began to understand that the humans had not come to impress with sheer size or technology alone. They had come with foresight, armed not with ultimatums, but with knowledge that could decide the fate of worlds. And far away, at the edge of mapped space, the rift pulsed again, just slightly wider than before. The request for a demonstration came almost reluctantly from Counselor Thaleen. He phrased it as a matter of verification, nothing official, of course, but the undercurrent was clear. The Conquered wanted proof. Captain Elena Vance agreed without hesitation. "Prepare an open channel. Relay," she instructed her crew. "If they're going to see what the Aegis can do, they'll see it in full." Within an hour, the Titan-class warship had moved into a designated test zone just beyond the orbital defense grid. A small flotilla of Conquered science vessels accompanied them, their hulls bristling with scanning arrays. On the other side of the exclusion perimeter, a defense monitor kept a silent, watchful presence. The demonstration would be broadcast live to the Concord's High Council chamber. For most of them, it was their first time seeing humanity's most advanced ship outside. Still images. Even rendered across vast distances, the Aegis's scale was imposing. The length of a city, with segmented armor plates that shimmered subtly under the starlight. Commander Raj Patel stood at the tactical station, hands moving across the interface with deliberate precision. "Test target deployed," he announced. From the science flotilla, a heavy composite sphere, dense enough to mimic an asteroid, was ejected into space. It tumbled slowly, a dull silhouette against the void. Thaleen's voice came over the secure channel. "A target of this density would require sustained energy output to breach. Even our dreadnoughts need 20 seconds of focused fire." Patel didn't respond verbally. Instead, he tapped a sequence into his console. The Aegis's primary weapon arrays came online with a deep, resonant hum that reverberated through the deck. But the shot did not come from a single cannon. Instead, a web of energy conduits lit up across the warship's armor, channeling power toward a focal point at its bow. The system's design allowed the Aegis to draw from multiple reactors simultaneously, feeding an output curve unlike any standard Conquered weapon. The beam fired, pure, steady, and impossibly bright. The target sphere did not merely crack, it evaporated into a mist of glowing particles, dispersed completely before the 20-second mark had even passed. Gasps echoed through the comms. Sivan's voice carried a mix of disbelief and intrigue. "Your weapon efficiency exceeds known Concord parameters by 70%. How?" Elena exchanged a brief look with Patel. "Integration," she said simply. "No single system is separate from another. Power, shielding, propulsion, and weapons all share the same adaptive grid. When one system doesn't need full capacity, it flows to another instantly. No energy wasted." The science vessels busied themselves with readings, transmitting streams of data to their respective homeworlds. Even without classified access to the Aegis's schematics, the potential was obvious. But Elena wasn't finished. "Commander, initiate Phase 2. Patel keyed another command, and the Aegis's shields shimmered into visibility. Normally a faint distortion, but now visibly layered. One of the science vessels sent a controlled pulse from its own energy projector. It splashed harmlessly against the outermost layer. Then another pulse came, heavier this time, calibrated to levels that could breach most Concord cruisers. The impact rippled through the first shield layer, but instead of dissipating entirely, the energy was drawn inward, rerouted through the Aegis's power network. Within seconds, the ship's weapon capacitors glowed brighter. "You're converting shield impact into offensive charge," Thaleen said slowly. "That's unprecedented." "Defense doesn't have to be passive," Elena replied. "We believe in making every exchange count." For a moment, there was no skepticism, only a silent acknowledgement that humanity had brought something entirely new to the table. The technology was impressive, yes, but the philosophy behind it was what made it dangerous in the right or wrong hands. The demonstration ended, but the ripples it sent through the Concorde's hierarchy had only just begun. As the Aegis powered, down its test arrays, Savin's voice came over the channel again, quieter this time. "Captain Vance, your people have built something not just to win battles, but to change them. That is not a small thing." Elena let the words hang in the air before replying. "Then maybe it's time we start thinking about what's worth defending, and what we're willing to defend together." Beyond the test zone, the rift pulsed again. Larger this time, its glow faintly visible even from the Concorde's deep space sensors. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time, it was starting to listen. The rift's glow had been a distant anomaly before, something the Concorde's science divisions could debate from the safety of their labs. But now, it pulsed with a deliberate rhythm, as if something on the other side was aware of being observed. From the bridge of the Aegis, Captain Elena Vance watched the energy readings climb. The visual feed showed the swirling vortex expanding in slow, graceful arcs of light. "How long before it reaches critical instability?" she asked. Lieutenant Mora's voice was calm but tight. "At its current rate, 2 hours. But, Captain, there's movement inside the rift." The holodisplay shifted to highlight faint shapes moving within the distortion, shadowy outlines that broke apart and reformed like smoke caught in a storm. Sivan, patched through from the Concord observation station, spoke sharply. "Those readings match nothing in our archives. If they are vessels, they're unlike any construction known to the Concorde. The Council's representatives were already convening in a private channel, debating evacuation protocols for the nearest colonies." Elena knew what that meant. Pulling back, leaving the outer sectors exposed and hoping the rift threat collapsed on its own. But she also knew that hope was rarely a strategy worth relying on. "Bring us to the outer edge," Elena ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The Aegis's engines engaged, carrying the massive warship forward with an elegance that belied its size. The Concorde flotilla followed at a cautious distance, their captains unsure whether to see the Aegis as a shield or a lure. As they drew closer, the rift's interior became clearer. The shadows resolved into structures, elongated angular vessels with faint luminescent seams. They moved in coordinated formations, their paths intersecting like pieces of an unseen pattern. "They're mapping us," Patel murmured from the tactical station. "Their movement is deliberate, like they're testing angles." Elena's gaze was fixed on the largest of the vessels emerging from the rift. It was enormous, easily matching the Aegis in scale, but its surface seemed fluid, shifting and reforming, under the constant flow of rift energy. Sivan's voice cut in again. "Captain, Concorde Protocol states that no engagement should occur until the Council reaches consensus." "With respect, Counselor," Elena replied. "If we wait for consensus, we'll be discussing our options while those ships decide for us." A tremor rolled through the surrounding space, a distortion wave emanating from the rift. Sensors screamed warnings as the wave passed through the Concorde flotilla, disrupting their shield harmonics. The Aegis, however, held steady. It's adaptive. Grid absorbed the wave's residual energy, converting part of it into a temporary boost to the forward shields. Patel glanced at the readings and raised an eyebrow. "Looks like the rift just gave us a little extra charge." The alien vessels began to accelerate, their paths converging toward the observation station and its vulnerable escort ships. Elena made her decision. All units, fall back to the B Aegis's perimeter. We'll form a single defensive line. Some captains hesitated. Accepting human command was not part of their chain of protocol, but as the alien ships closed the distance, hesitation gave way to pragmatism. The flotilla pulled in closer, their formations aligning with the Aegis at the center. "Lock primary batteries," Patel said. "Let's give them something to think about." The first alien ship broke from the formation, launching a pulse of rift energy toward the line. The blast would have breached most standard Concorde shields, but instead, it struck the Aegis, was absorbed into its grid, and redirected as a concentrated beam toward the attacker. The alien ship twisted away, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Gasps echoed over the open channel. For many Concord officers, it was the first time they had seen energy redirection used as an offensive tactic in real combat. The aliens did not retreat. Instead, more of their ships slipped from the rift, surrounding the perimeter. They were testing the limits, probing for weaknesses. "Captain," Mora said, her voice steady but urgent, "if they fully breach into our space, we'll lose the advantage of containment." Elena nodded. "Then we make sure containment holds." The Aegis shifted position, its massive frame acting as a shield wall for the smaller vessels. The alien ships hesitated, their formations breaking slightly at the sight of the Titan class holding the line alone. It wasn't just a show of force, it was a message. The rift pulsed again, brighter this time, and somewhere deep inside, a low-frequency signal began to echo through every channel. No one recognized the language, but every instinct on the bridge told them the same thing. This was only the beginning. The first direct strike came without warning. A beam of condensed rift energy lanced out from the largest alien vessel, cutting through the darkness in a brilliant arc. Smaller Concorde escorts scrambled to evade, their shields sparking as residual energy washed over them. But the Aegis didn't move. Instead, the ship's forward shield grid shimmered with a faint blue hue, absorbing the impact in measured pulses. Power levels fluctuated for a fraction of a second before stabilizing, and then, without visible charge buildup, the Aegis returned fire. Her counterstrike wasn't as bright or as loud as the alien beam. It was precise. A tight, narrow bolt that struck the alien vessel at a vulnerable junction along its shifting hull. The point of contact destabilized, sending ripples of distortion racing down the ship's structure. On the Concorde command channel, dozens of voices spoke at once. Sivan's was the loudest. "That precision! How did they identify a weak point so quickly?" Elena's tone remained even. "Because we watch before we act." Patel, hunched over tactical displays, was tracking every fluctuation in the alien vessel's shapes. "They're adaptive, like their hulls are alive, but adaptive systems have transition moments when they're weakest. We're catching those moments and hitting them before they stabilize." The alien ships didn't back down. They adjusted their formation, splitting into two flanking groups while a third cluster moved to encircle the Aegis. The Concorde escorts followed human maneuvers, staying close enough to benefit from the Titan-class's shield coverage. From the alien lead ship, a new kind of projectile launched. Small, crystalline pods that shattered before reaching the Aegis, releasing clouds of microscopic fragments. Mora's hands moved swiftly over her console. Fragment dispersal, likely nanostructures. "Recommend full-spectrum countermeasures," Elena nodded. "Deploy." The Aegis released a series of magnetic pulses, sweeping the particles into harmless arcs before they could settle against the hull. Concorde ships tried to copy the maneuver, but their less adaptive systems couldn't keep pace. One escort's shields flickered under fragment interference, forcing it to retreat into the Aegis's shadow. On the alien side, hesitation was beginning to show. They were powerful, but their attacks were being read and countered in ways they hadn't faced before. Patel grinned. They're realizing we don't fight like the Concord. Indeed, most Concord battle doctrine favored overwhelming force or layered formations. Humanity's style, especially aboard the Aegis, was fluid, reactive, and unnervingly personal. Every move felt like it had been tailored to the opponent, not drawn from a pre-written playbook. The rift pulsed again. This time, the signal that echoed through open channels was accompanied by a sudden surge of alien reinforcements. More ships, sleeker than the first wave, emerging from the swirling light. Reinforcements, Mora said, her tone low. We're about to be outnumbered 3-1. Elena didn't flinch. Numbers don't decide the fight. Position does. Patel, give me a vector that forces them to split their fleet. Patel's eyes narrowed as he overlaid trajectories. If we angle 30 degrees spinward and push toward the rift's shadow zone, we'll force their wings to split or risk crossing their own firing arcs. The Aegis's massive frame shifted, engines burning a deep amber glow as she moved into the calculated path. Alien ships adjusted instantly, but just as predicted, they broke formation. That moment of split coordination was all the Aegis needed. Primary batteries unleashed a volley at the exposed side of one alien wing, catching two ships before they could readapt their hulls. One vessel's structure folded inward, vanishing into a ripple of rift light. The Concord escorts, emboldened, joined in the push. Even ships that had earlier doubted the Aegis's command were now aligning with its lead. Sivan's voice returned, quieter than before. Perhaps. There is more to your warship than intimidation. Not intimidation, Elena said, eyes locked on the tactical feed. Just a reminder that humanity doesn't wait to be told how to survive. The alien reinforcements regrouped, forming a defensive circle around the rift's edge. They were no longer pressing toward Concord territory. They were holding their ground, as though protecting the gateway itself. Elena studied the formation. She didn't see retreat in their posture, but she did see something else: concern. Whatever lay beyond the rift, the aliens were guarding it, and that meant the real threat hadn't stepped through yet. The alien ships held their defensive ring, their shifting hulls glimmering with patterns that looked almost ceremonial. The rift behind them pulsed in deep, rhythmic waves, like a heartbeat amplified through the fabric of space. On the Aegis's bridge, the crew's attention shifted from the battle to the phenomenon at the rift's core. Even Mora, normally focused entirely on weapons readiness, found her gaze drawn to the swirling currents. Patel broke the silence. Those patterns. In the rift, look at the cadence. That's not random energy flux. It's a signal. Elena leaned forward, studying the playback. You're saying the rift itself is transmitting? Not just transmitting, Patel replied. It's cycling through a sequence, like a countdown. Sivan's voice came over the shared channel. You humans believe this is a timer? For what? Before Patel could answer, Mora reported an energy spike from the alien formation. They're increasing shield output, but not toward us. It's focused inward, toward the rift. Elena considered the posture of the alien ships. Again, they weren't in combat stance anymore. They were bracing, preparing for something to emerge. They're not attacking us, Elena said. They're protecting themselves from whatever's about to come through. The bridge fell silent, each officer processing what that meant. If the first wave of alien vessels had been a challenge, what could possibly make them this defensive? The Aegis's sensors began picking up fluctuations beyond the rift's threshold. The readings were inconsistent, as though the scanners couldn't decide whether they were detecting matter, energy, or something else entirely. Patel frowned. It's big. Larger than any single vessel we've encountered. And its energy? Signature. It's bending the spectrum itself. One of the alien ships broke from formation, drifting closer to the Aegis. A voice came through an open channel, translated through the Concord systems. Human vessel, the voice said. calm, but urgent. "This is not your fight. Leave now." Elena kept her tone steady. "With respect, your presence at our borders makes it our fight. Tell us what's coming." The aliens' response was delayed, as though they weighed the risk of speaking. "A harbinger. It does not speak. It does not stop. We guard this threshold so it cannot cross." The signal cut abruptly, and the alien ship returned to formation. The countdown Patel had identified was nearing its end. The rift's light condensed into a narrow point, then expanded outward in a silent bloom. From within, something vast began to emerge, a shape so immense that even the Aegis's panoramic sensors struggled to capture it in a single frame. It wasn't a ship in the traditional sense. It was a lattice of shimmering frameworks, each one rotating and folding into the next, forming an ever-changing silhouette. Within its structure glowed points of deep crimson light, like distant stars trapped inside a cage. "Size estimate?" Elena asked quietly. Mora hesitated. "Comparable to a small moon." The alien fleet unleashed a barrage of energy toward the emerging shape, their weapons carving lines of white heat against its surface. The structure absorbed the strikes without slowing. Patel glanced at Elena. "If that thing moves toward Concord, space, we won't stop it with firepower alone." The Aegis's displays were already filling with tactical projections, most of which ended in the same grim outcome, failure to contain the entity. Elena made her decision. "If the aliens are holding it back, we fight alongside them." Sivan's voice returned, sharper now. "You will aid those who sought to test your strength only hours ago." "Tests don't matter," Elena replied. "Survival does." The Aegis shifted into position alongside the alien formation, matching their defensive arc. Concord escorts followed, their captains understanding that hesitation would only doom them all. As the Harbinger's form stabilized, a wave of force rippled outward, passing through the fleets like an unseen tide. The Aegis's hull groaned, shields flaring to full intensity. The alien ship's shifting hulls hardened into crystalline patterns, locking into place. The Harbinger's central lattice turned slowly, and one of its crimson lights focused directly on the Aegis. The temperature in the bridge seemed to drop, though every sensor showed no physical change. "It's looking at us," Patel murmured. Elena's gaze didn't waver. "Then let's show it what humanity does when the galaxy stands still." The Harbinger's gaze, or whatever passed for it, remained fixed on the Aegis. It did not accelerate. It did not fire. It simply existed, a monumental lattice of shifting geometry, as if waiting for something. Elena kept her voice steady. "Patel, give me everything on that central lattice. Spectral analysis, harmonic resonance, anything." The science officer's fingers danced across the console. "It's emitting in ultra-low frequencies, beyond what our ears could detect, but not beyond our reach." Mora raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying it's broadcasting?" Patel nodded. "It's communicating, but not in language. It's using resonance to test structural stability, like a sonar ping across dimensions." Savan broke into the channel from the alien flagship. "We have fought this thing for cycles. It adapts to energy, to force, to matter itself. It cannot be destroyed." Elena didn't flinch. "Everything can be destroyed. It just takes the right approach." The alien fleet unleashed another coordinated barrage. Beams of violet and gold energy struck the Harbinger's framework, splintering into harmless streams that reformed into its structure. It didn't even react. Patel's voice came suddenly alive with realization. "Captain, its structure isn't resisting, it's resonating. It's not a fortress, it's an instrument." Elena caught on instantly. "If it's an instrument, then maybe we can play a different tune." She called up the Aegis's deep frequency. Emitters, devices meant for planetary subsurface scanning, not warfare. Patel, match its resonance exactly, then invert the harmonic phase. Savin's voice was sharp. You are going to play against it? Exactly, Elena replied. Let's see how it likes being on the receiving end. The alien captains exchanged data quickly, some clearly skeptical, but none objected. The alternative was simple. Let the Harbinger pass into conquered space and watch it consume worlds. Patel locked the emitters into place. Frequency inversion ready. This will either disrupt its structure or do absolutely nothing. Elena gave the order. Engage! The Aegis's hull vibrated with the low, almost inaudible hum of the emitters. The alien ships added their own, modulated pulses, weaving the output into a multi-layered wave. Space itself seemed to shimmer as the soundless tone spread. The Harbinger paused. For the first time since emerging from the rift, it shifted unevenly, its lattice bending out of its perfect rhythm. One of the crimson points flickered. Mora's eyes widened. We hit something. Patel adjusted the frequency, increasing amplitude by 20%. The Harbinger began to distort, its framework folding inward as though trying to shield itself from the sound. The crimson lights pulsed faster, erratic now, their once perfect synchronization breaking apart. The rift behind it responded, shrinking and expanding in chaotic bursts. Sivan's voice held something like awe. You are unmaking its song. Not just unmaking, Patel said. We're rewriting it. The alien fleets pushed their emitters to maximum, their patterns meshing with the Aegis's inversion wave. The combined resonance turned the void into an invisible storm, one that gnawed at the Harbinger's structure. Cracks, if they could be called that, appeared in the lattice. Segments broke away, dissolving into harmless motes of light. The creature, or construct, shuddered violently, the rift spasming in response. Elena didn't let up. All ships, full harmonic inversion! Now! The final wave hit like a silent thunderclap. The Harbinger's structure collapsed inward, each segment folding faster and faster until the entire form compressed into a single, blinding point of light. The rift contracted sharply, pulling the point back into itself, then closed with a soundless flash. Silence fell across the comm channels. The alien formation drifted, their hulls slowly shifting back to their neutral patterns. Sivan's voice was the first to break the stillness. In cycles of war, we have never seen it retreat. Humanity has changed the threshold. Elena exhaled, tension easing from her shoulders. We didn't do it alone. Patel allowed himself a small smile. Still, not bad for a first contact. Thus, alien flagship turned toward the Aegis. Perhaps, Savan said, the galaxy should stand still more often, so it can listen. Elena watched the distant stars. Or maybe it's time for it to move forward, together. The Aegis and the alien fleet set course away from the now quiet expanse, the threat gone, for now. Across the void, news of the battle would spread, not as a story of a single ship, but as the moment when humanity's voice joined the galactic chorus and changed its tune forever.